Well, it's a little bit different this week, but welcome into this week's Big 12 Breakdown. Sports Director Kurtis Quillin alongside the voice of the Bears, John Morris. John, how is Milwaukee, my friend?
It is cold today. It wasn't bad yesterday. Yesterday, it was like a balmy 51 degrees, and we're all bundled up here in Milwaukee, here with Baylor basketball. And our bus driver was wearing short sleeve shirt. It was the funniest
Classic.
thing. Yeah, it's all perception. But today, it's considerably cooler. It was 25 with a wind chill of 11 when I woke up this morning.
Okay, I was about to say I don't think it's any better down here, but it's like 38 down here right
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
so
yeah,
it's a lot better.
yeah.
You're up there obviously because the Baylor and Marquette opened the Big 12 Big East battle. Let's just talk real quick about that game. Baylor came
We have
out
to.
shooting well, and then Marquette went on a run that never stopped. Is basically how I would sum that game up.
Yeah, just jumped the Bears from the get-go. Actually, Baylor had a 7-2 lead to start the game, and then I don't know the numbers, but Marquette went on like a 21-2 run, something like that, and yeah, never let up. I mean, they never
Right.
let their foot off the gas pedal. The disturbing part about that game was Baylor's defense. You know, there was enough offense that Baylor could have, I think, mounted a comeback a lot like the North Carolina game last year when Baylor got behind by 25, second round of the NCAA tournament, made a great comeback to force overtime, but Baylor just couldn't get any stops, and Marquette just kept on hitting their shots and driving to the rim. There was no rim protection for Baylor. So it was one of those nights where Marquette just put it on the Bears. And now it's tough because you got to, put it behind you pretty quickly and play Gonzaga coming up on Friday.
Yeah, that's not a test at all, is it?
Yeah, right.
I had someone in the newsroom come up to me and say, well, they came back from something like this against North Carolina, right? And I was like, the difference is they got North Carolina. They got stops against North Carolina. North Carolina missed shots in the second half of that game. It's part of why Baylor was able to get the ball back, score, and go into a press. And Marquette just never missed. Was it Ponder who
Yep.
had a game high 27 in this one? Last night. I mean, the guy shot what, like 80%? I don't remember the number on the box score, but I never saw him miss.
Yeah, no, and it wasn't just him. I mean, it was everybody. Their point guard was pretty good. He was distributing the ball, and they were just hitting from three-point range. And again, Baylor just really couldn't put any pressure on him defensively all night.
Not that this is an important stat, but it is Baylor's second straight loss in a conference versus conference challenge because they lost to Alabama and Tuscaloosa back in January in the Big 12 SEC challenge. And it's their first loss in the Big East Big 12 battle. A tournament that's realistically in its fourth season. Baylor played in its third game because remember that 2020 showing at Seton Hall got canceled when the Bears had some COVID issues and had to pull out of Bubbleville. Let's go through last week's regular season finales in football. And we'll come back to the rest of the Big 12 Big East battle here in just a little bit. All 10 teams in action on the final 2 days of the college football regular season. John, you and I were in Austin. Number 23, Texas 38, Baylor 27. Second quarter, or the second half rather, Baylor's offense just kind of went cold there.
Yeah, very much so. And it was a heavy dose of Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson for Texas also. Bijan, the leading rusher in the league, had 29 yards at halftime, right? And he finished with 179. So they were just pounding it with those two running backs. And Baylor didn't have an answer, could not stop him rushing the ball. And after the defensive touchdown by Baylor, not any other scoring in the second half.
One attempted pass is what Texas had in the fourth quarter of that game to explain just how dominant the Longhorn rushing attack in that one was. Number 4, TCU 62, Iowa State 14. That moves the Horned Frogs to number 3 in the penultimate college football playoff rankings, and now Horned Frog fans have 2014 flashbacks. Absolutely dominant from the Frogs in this one. There's an argument on Twitter that maybe TCU should be locked into a playoff spot no matter the result Saturday in Arlington. Do you agree?
That's a really good question. I'm not the authority on this. I would hope that what TCU did this year in this league, I think that helps them. I mean, that is a strong 12-0, 5 ranked wins over the course of the year. That's more than anybody else, especially in those top 4. It's more than I think it's more than the others combined in the top 4. So, to make it through this league this year undefeated, I would think, man, they have got some a legitimate case, even if they were to fall against K-State on Saturday.
And honestly, with injuries kind of hitting TCU the way they have, I don't believe Quentin Johnston played against Iowa State Saturday, and I cannot for the life of me remember if he played against Baylor either. Yeah, Johnston did not have a reception against Iowa State Saturday. So if he's healthy, I like TCU's chances Saturday. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but I think this TCU team has an argument to be a lock, but also it's the college football playoff. I kind of equate it to UIL realignment. If you think you know what's going to happen, they're going to throw you a curveball.
It's exactly right. And teams like USC are really coming on. I watched part of that game last weekend, and they did look good. But I just think for the entire season, what TCU has done, I would hope they could stay in that spot.
In the Sunflower Showdown, number 12, Kansas State 47, Kansas 27. K-State wins the rivalry game and advances to the Big 12 Conference Championship game with the win. Absolutely dominant on both sides of the ball. The defense gets points in the first quarter, and the offense explodes. 23-7 is the score after one, and the one touchdown Kansas had in the first quarter. John, do you know where Torrey Loughlin hails from?
No, I do not. Good question.
He is a former Rockdale Tiger.
Oh,
who was a former Gridiron Player of the Week as the on our Friday Night Lights program at 6 News. He was our Gridiron Player of the Week after he threw for like 6 touchdowns against Academy en route to a state championship in 2017. A little bit of Central Texas flair to that one.
That's good. Good connection there.
So K-State entered the Big 12 championship game for the first time since the game was brought back in 2017. Remember, K-State did win the conference in the second year that there was no Big 12 championship game. That was 2012. West Virginia 24, Oklahoma State 19. You didn't want to talk about the Baylor basketball game last night. I don't want to talk about this one. That was just an absolute just kind of a cluster from Oklahoma State. West Virginia gets its third win in the Big 12 schedule, its first road win since week 4 against Virginia Tech. And truthfully, Oklahoma State just did not play good football in this one.
Yeah. And how about this? So in the preseason poll, which doesn't mean much now in November, but preseason poll, Baylor was 1, Oklahoma was 2, Oklahoma State was 3. West Virginia's 3 wins this year in conference. Baylor, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State.
West Virginia has more wins in Big 12 play against bowl-eligible teams than it has the entire rest of the season against teams that did not go to a bowl game.
Yeah, how about that? And is that enough for Neil Brown, hopefully, to be back for another year at West Virginia?
And that's my thought is, does that save his job, or does this AD change kind of still tell us that a change is coming? I really think it's one of those, we don't know about what West Virginia is going to do because it is being played so closely to the vest. I think what is really going to come down to is the negotiations with the next AD to replace Shane Lyons.
Right. And, part of there's one scenario that the change with Shane Lyons, the AD, was made to clear the way to make a football coaching change.
Right.
But then West Virginia went out and won those games over Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. So I'm pulling for him. I hope he keeps his job there at West Virginia.
He's one of the at Big 12 Media Days, we get to interact with a lot of these coaches, and he is one of the friendliest human beings at Big 12 Media Days. Like, he's up there with Dave Aranda and Lance Leipold as far as my favorite personalities in the head coaching position in the Big 12, because he's just very genuine, and that goes a long way with me. I do want to come back to that AD search in a minute. Texas Tech 51, Oklahoma 48. That's a final in overtime. Tech rallies from 14-0 down after the first quarter to be down 1 at the half, 24-23. Heck of a win for Joey McGuire's ball club. They're 7-5. And things are looking like they might get a really good bowl game out of this.
Oh, man, isn't that great? I mean, to finish strong like that and to get to 7 wins, that is a huge first season for Joey McGuire. Couldn't be happier for him. And now they can take down the old double T scoreboard there. It's coming down. That was the last game for that, but it comes down after a win, big win over Oklahoma.
It makes me sad. That's an iconic scoreboard there.
Exactly, yeah.
South end zone. I remember looking straight at it my one semester in the band at Oklahoma State, we played in Lubbock. This is when Jason Morrow had this ridiculously gymnastic catch before going to the league. And that's an awesome scoreboard. It's iconic. And that's one of the things that makes me sad about this stadium arms race in college football. And as if Oklahoma State fans didn't need any more proof, or Texas Tech fans didn't need any more proof that OSU and Tech are fairly similar schools, Oklahoma State announced yesterday sweeping upgrades coming to Boone Pickens Stadium in Stillwater. I believe the total I saw was something like $55 million being spent on it. Man. So real quick on the AD search. I know you were busy yesterday. Shane Lyons went on the radio on Monday, or was interviewed by a media member in West Virginia, and kind of aired out quite a bit of dirty laundry about that job change when they fired him. One of the things that he told this interview, and I cannot for the life of me remember the outlet, I want to say it was Metro News out of West Virginia, was that he felt like he was the scapegoat because people had buyer's remorse about the contract extension for Neil Brown. And so I haven't seen anything to this magnitude from an AD. I've seen coaches come out and air all kinds of dirty laundry. Go ask Ole Miss about it, because the guy who did it to them just got hired at Auburn. But I don't remember seeing this done at the AD position whenever someone leaves. Does that kind of surprise you that this info is coming out now, where you've got an AD in the Big 12 saying, look, man, everybody wanted it, and now I'm the one who's not working there?
Yeah. I don't feel like I know anything enough about the inner workings there.
Right.
I have heard that, kind of like you have, and you know more about it than I do, but Shane Lyons is the one who really sort of stuck his neck out to give that contract extension guaranteed to Neil Brown, and that there wasn't going to be a football coaching change as long as Shane Lyons was there. So it was, in some respects, some people thought it was going to be a 1-2 punch. Shane Lyons has to go first and then Neil Brown. But as we talked about, maybe Neil has done enough to save his job there. And, for Shane Lyons, I don't know his motivation. Maybe he's got some really valid points in what he's saying.
And like you said, I don't know enough about the inner workings. I'm just reading the transcript from this interview that Shane Lyons did with this reporter in West Virginia. And you worked in journalism as well before you were the voice of the Bears. You know as well as I do. There's three sides to every story. There's this side, there's this side, and the truth is somewhere in the middle. And so I don't know how much I'm gonna buy into what he's saying. Obviously, there's not going to be any comment from Gordon Gee or from the interim AD at West Virginia, whose name were dragged into this report, by the way, as well. And nor should there be. Like, it's all speculation until they say something. And I don't know that I would want to say anything at that point, but you mentioned kind of the way this is expected to play out. Auburn did this exact same thing to get rid of Brian Harsin. It didn't extend the AD. AD resigns about a month later, and Brian Harsin is fired by the president of the university. And then later that same day, they hire a new AD. And so really interesting, the kind of the inner workings of college athletics. I just thought that was something shocking to me, to see that kind of conversation happen from someone in that position who was not a coach, who was an administrator in that. So with that, Saturday, 11 a.m. Central, AT&T Stadium in Arlington. It is the Dr. Pepper Big 12 Championship game. This game on ABC. Number 10 Kansas State at 9-3. Number 3 TCU at 12-0. The computer projections on this one, John, TCU by 2.9. That's according to SP Plus at ESPN. And I think that's pretty spot on. I think this is going to be a knockdown, drag out affair.
I think so too. I think it's a great matchup. Clearly the two best teams in the Big 12 this year. And it's great that it worked out that way. Great that it's a top 10 matchup for the third straight year in the Big 12 championship game, with TCU at number 3 and K-State rising to number 10. K-State or TCU top offense in the league, total offense, scoring offense, and K-State number 1 in scoring defense. So there's a lot of really cool things about this matchup. One thing is a given, 100%. There'll be a lot of purple at AT&T Stadium on Saturday.
Yep. It's a pseudo home game is how I think Ken Palm would put it for TCU. Only 20 minutes from campus. Would you like a fun fact about this Big 12
Yes,
championship game?
please.
It is the only conference championship game Saturday between two teams both ranked in the top 10 of the current college football playoff top 25.
Says a lot about the Big 12, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
If you've got two top 10 teams there, and for for TCU again, if there's a loss, it's to the number 10 team in the nation. Does come late, and then that final tally is going to come on Sunday. So I don't know. It's just another kind of notch in the belt for the Big 12, really,
right.
Whichever way it goes.
The last time computer projections were this close on a TCU game, it came down to a walk-off field goal in Waco. So
I remember that game.
Yeah. I had a wedding that weekend. I was listening to your call, and tremendous call on that Griffin Kell walk-off, by the way. And this is going to come down to me to who has the ball last. If Quentin Johnston plays, I like TCU's chances. I'm going with TCU in this one because I think I like the Horned Frogs to get into the college football playoff, and I think that starts with proving that they can find a way even with a healthy quarterback. Remember, Will Howard and Adrian Martinez both knocked out of that game in Fort Worth when these two played. I think Will Howard is a little healthier now than he was in that game, and so give me TCU to win it close, but I think Will Howard does have the potential to make things really interesting, especially down the stretch for K-State.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think Will Howard playing with a lot more confidence right now because, he was just sort of, just stepping into that role, playing more back on October 22nd. TCU won 38-28. But now, he's been in there as the main guy. I think Chris Kleiman said this week that Adrian Martinez could be healthy and could be available. But he said, but Will Howard's our guy. I mean, he didn't crack that door as to who's going to start the game, which he gives even more confidence to Will Howard. So I think it's going to be a great matchup. I kind of look at these two teams the way I saw them when they played Baylor. And Baylor, obviously almost beat TCU last second field goal. K-State just ripped and ran over Baylor 31-3. But even with that, I'm done picking against TCU. I told you that several weeks ago. So I would take TCU in a very close game and a great, great showcase for the Big 12.
And I look at it as, kind of to your point, which team has more to play for here. And if you want to go by, transitive properties, TCU performed better against a very good defense in Iowa State, putting 62 points on Iowa State, and granted in Fort Worth. So if you want to take two scores off there, congratulations, it's still 48. Kansas State put 10 on them in Ames. And so the transitive property there, obviously that's a very imperfect way to look at football. But yeah, TCU has more to play for here. And so that's what I think gives the Frogs the edge. Kind of like you said, I'm not picking against TCU at this point. They're finding a way to get it done.
Yeah, great game. And how about Brett Yormark and his fingerprints all over this game with the entertainment and that aspect of it? That's kind of fun to see.
That is the newer, cooler, hipper Big 12 that he promised to bring. John, let's go back to basketball as we wrap this up. The Big East Big 12 battle. Day 2 is today. 3 games on the docket for it. It's Kansas State and Butler, 5:30 on Fox Sports 1 from Hinkle Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. It is Georgetown and Texas Tech, 7 p.m. on ESPN Plus from Lubbock, and it is Providence and TCU from Fort Worth, ESPN Plus at 7 o'clock as well. Today's matchups, is there one that sticks out to you that might be the best matchup of those 3?
Not so much today. I mean, I know the games are coming up. We're going to be traveling later today, so I'm not sure I'll see any. Well, we'll be there by this evening, but not so much today. I tell you what, I'm really looking forward to Creighton in Texas. Is that tomorrow?
That's tomorrow. That's the best game in this challenge.
Exactly. Creighton number 7, I think, and Texas number 2. But man, what a great matchup! And who knew when they made these, matchups between the Big 12 and the Big East that you'd have 2 of the top 7 teams in the nation.
I would say that 3 of the 4 best games in the challenge are on Thursday. You mentioned Creighton, Texas. That's a 6 p.m. Central tip on ESPN from the Moody Center in Austin. 5:30 p.m. Central Thursday from Storrs, Connecticut. This is the one. If you had asked me which one has bigger blowout potential, Baylor Marquette or Oklahoma State UConn, one, I would not have told you Baylor was on the losing end of a blowout. That still surprises me, but I would have told you it was UConn, Oklahoma State, because UConn had a great showing at PK 85 last week out in Portland. And I think that this is a really dangerous matchup for the Cowboys, but Mike Boynton has proven me wrong before. And then Seton Hall, Kansas, 8 p.m. Central on ESPN from Allen Fieldhouse in Lawrence wraps up Thursday. If you're looking at daily schedules in this challenge, Thursdays trumps them all.
Yeah, which would be really good. We'll be in, we're going straight from Milwaukee to Sioux Falls, South Dakota for the Baylor Gonzaga game Friday. So Thursday, we'll have some time to just sit and watch those games, not playing on Thursday night. So some really good matchups in this challenge series.
Saturday in the Big East. We're talking strictly Big East Big 12 battle right now. We'll hit Baylor Gonzaga right before we close it out. 11:30 Central from Philadelphia on CBS at the Wells Fargo Center. It is Oklahoma and Villanova. I think the Sooners have a really good path to a blowout here, playing really good basketball as of late. They just won the ESPN Events Invitational down in Orlando, and Villanova is kind of in a bad way right now.
Yeah, what another great matchup, and to be on CBS, on a Saturday. Would this be CBS's first, big Saturday basketball game of the year?
I believe it is. And if you're talking about a big audience, this is the lead into the SEC championship game.
Yeah. So really good there. Great opportunity for Oklahoma.
And a great opportunity for West Virginia as well. 5:30 Central on FS1 from the Cintas Center. It is West Virginia and Xavier. That is a fantastic matchup on the hardwood. I think that if West Virginia wins this game, I think we're talking about an NCAA tournament potential team in Morgantown.
Yeah, and this would be a great step for the league, for West Virginia, part of this challenge series. So, man, really, really good matchups this year.
And the final game of the Big 12 Big East battle, it's another good one. St. John's, fresh off a blowout of Long Island last night, is 8-0. And it travels to number 23, Iowa State. That is a 2 p.m. tip from Hilton Coliseum Sunday on ESPN2. So let's talk about the larger than normal elephant in the room. 7 p.m. Central Friday from Sanford Pentagon in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. It is the Peacock Classic on Peacock. That is the streaming app from NBC. It is number 6 Baylor. It is number 14 Gonzaga, both with 2 losses. One of those kind of one that really got away from them. Very similar resumes at this point in the season. John, knowing what you know so far, as of 10 o'clock Central Time Wednesday morning, what is the biggest key for Baylor in this game?
Got to play defense. Got to tighten up things defensively from the way they played against Marquette. That was really disturbing, because that's not a Scott Drew coach team. You just don't see that. When was the last time that the defense played that poorly for Baylor? So they've got to find some answers. I know the coaches here had a long night last night. I was not a part of that, but I know that they went right to work trying to figure out what they need to do to be better overall, but better defensively. I think that's going to be really the key on Friday.
Would you believe me if I told you Baylor dropped 8 spots in KenPom?
Probably, yeah.
They were 8th in KenPom Monday when we woke up. They are 16th this morning after the debacle last night. To me, I think the key for me is rebounding, because the 2 times that they've let too many second chances, and Marquette got 6 offensive rebounds, which doesn't sound like a lot, and Baylor won the rebounding battle, but you've got to get the ones that matter. And Iguodaro, is it Oso Iguodaro? He led the way with 3 offensive rebounds. That's the most in the game. And so you've got to clean up the glass at the moments that matter. Because you hit the nail on the head with defense, but sometimes that defense gets extended because of some of these missed rebound opportunities. And I think Baylor's got to clean some of those up. Did a really nice job on the defensive end of the floor with 18 rebounds, but those 6 offensive rebounds, I think most of them led to points, and that is a problem. And then you've got to take care of the basketball. 20 turnovers. You're going to lose a lot of basketball games if you're turning it over 20 times.
Yeah, and against a Marquette team that likes to force turnovers and really makes you pay. 20 turnovers is way too many, but there were 16 in the first half.
Yes.
I mean, turnovers at halftime was 16 for Baylor, 2 for Marquette. And, that's a 26-point deficit right there.
Yep. 26 points off turnovers for Marquette, 24 of which came in the first half. Baylor trailed 51-25 at the half. That tells the whole story right there. That'll be a fun one, though. Rematch of the 2021 National Championship game, which was another fun game, especially for Baylor fans. And so that'll definitely be worth watching. We will, of course, have you covered on 6 News. John, enjoy South Dakota, my friend.
Thank you very much. Never been to South Dakota, and Sioux Falls is like 13 miles from Mount Rushmore. So I want to go see Mount Rushmore. How about that?
I got to see Mount Rushmore on my way. So the summer before I started working at KCEN, we did a giant family vacation. I had just graduated from Oklahoma State. My brother had just graduated from high school and was heading to play college football. We just did a blowout vacation, road trip from San Antonio to Seattle, and then took a different path back in the week in between. We flew down to Hawaii for a week.
Oh, nice.
And when I tell you that Mount Rushmore, I'm not big on like art or looking at statues and stuff like that. Like I'm like, oh, cool, that's really cool. It's really historic. Mount Rushmore is very different.
Yeah,
it is so neat to see, and it's such an experience. Find an Uber, go do it. I can't recommend it enough.
Yeah.
It'll be a lot of fun. We will see you next week. Safe travels home. That is it for this week's Big 12 breakdown. You can catch John on the call Friday night on ESPN 1660 or on the Varsity Network app from Learfield with Baylor and Gonzaga. And you can catch him every day on the John Morris Show as well. And then we will have everything you need to know sports-wise at 6 and 10 every night. John, take care.
Appreciate it, Curtis. Thank you.